Viewer discretion is advised. This archive contains disturbing material.
I never thought one night could change everything, but that's exactly what happened the night I stopped at the old roadside motel. It was late. My car was barely holding together. The fuel gauge was dangerously close to empty. I'd been driving for hours on a lonely stretch of highway, surrounded by trees and darkness. The only sound, the hum of the engine, and my own thoughts echoing in the silence. Then, just ahead, a flickering neon sign. Welcome to Pine Grove Motel. The sign buzzed and flickered, casting a sickly glow over cracked pavement. It looked like any other place. Worn, tired, but inviting enough. The kind of place where you wouldn't expect anything out of the ordinary. Maybe a little rundown, but clean. I pulled in. Relief washed over me. Finally, somewhere to rest. Inside, the lobby was quiet, almost unnervingly so. The air smelled faintly of bleach and old wood. A single ceiling fan spun lazily, stirring up dust motes that danced in dim light. Behind the counter sat a young woman, maybe in her early 20s. Soft eyes, polite smile. She looked up when I walked in, but said nothing until I reached the desk. Then, almost quietly, she handed me a key. Room 7. No questions, no small talk, just a key. I didn't ask questions either. The motel felt normal, safe. My room was small, but neat. Faded floral wallpaper. A stained armchair pushed against the wall. I dropped my bags, flopped on the bed. The hum of the old air conditioner filled the silence. Steady, monotonous. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, scratching against the window pane. But then, just as I was drifting off, I heard it. A soft scratching at the wall, like fingernails tracing wood. I froze. The motel was supposed to be empty. I told myself it was nothing. A branch brushing against the siding. Maybe the old building settling. But the sound didn't stop. I closed my eyes. Then I heard it again. A whisper. Faint. Almost inaudible. I sat up, heart pounding. When I glanced toward the mirror across the room, I thought I saw a figure behind me. A woman, long white hair, pale skin. But when I spun around, nothing was there. I tried to shake it off, blaming exhaustion and the road. Later, I stepped into the hallway to get some air. The corridor stretched in both directions, dimly lit by flickering bulbs. The carpet threadbare, muffling my footsteps. As I walked, I caught a glimpse at the far end of the hall. A silhouette, tall, thin, hair flowing as if caught in a wind that wasn't there. Her eyes in deep, empty pits. She vanished before I could move. I rushed back to my room, locked the door. That night, sleep escaped me. The silence was broken by a terrible, heart-wrenching scream. Not human. Something primal. Something full of pain. It echoed through the motel walls. I grabbed my flashlight, the beam shaky in my trembling hands. I needed to find out what was happening. As I stepped into the hall, the temperature dropped sharply. My breath came out in frosty clouds. The lights flickered violently, casting long shadows that twisted and stretched. And then she appeared. The banshee, her skin pale, almost translucent, stretched tight over bones too sharp. Her eyes glowed with cold, unearthly light. Her mouth opened wide in a scream that seemed to freeze time itself. Her hair whipped around her like a storm, moving, impossible and unnatural. She moved slowly toward me, arms reaching out with claw-like fingers. I tried to run, but the hallway twisted and shifted, as if the motel was alive, trapping me. Doors slammed shut. The air grew heavier, thicker, hard to breathe. Whispers filled the air, voices of the lost, trapped forever in this place. Every time I turned, she was closer, closer, closer. I stumbled into the bathroom, locked the door behind me. My hands shook as I leaned against the cold wall. But she was there too, reflected in the mirror. Her face loomed behind me, warped, horrible. Her scream filled the room, piercing my mind. I dropped to my knees. I felt her cold fingers wrap around my shoulders. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was her face, a terrifying mask of sorrow and rage. In the morning, the motel was silent again. Room 7 was empty, except for a faint, chilling echo of her scream.
He is still watching.